RetroDaze.
Welcome back, Halloween fanatics, to another October installment when everything in the RetroDaze offices suddenly turns black and orange. Rubber rats crawl from their respective hidey holes and begin nibbling on discarded circus peanuts. Paper skeletons shake and shiver in the howling wind, which carries a cavalcade of ghosts to your doorstep. As we revel in this crisp, specter-filled autumn air, our resident writer has barricaded himself inside a coffin-sized office filled with spiders and bats. You know, for inspiration? And not at all to hide from the angry hordes of trick-or-treaters that he disappointed with handfuls of candy corn.
Today, we're revisiting the most popular topic from last year's October series, Halloween candy. Specifically, this year we're rounding up the good, the bad, and the forgotten. So, pull up a seat, grab a seasonal beverage, and turn the lights down low for another October treat. For today's video, the rules are, well, there are no rules. By that I mean, you're going to find some of your most hated candy on the good list, and some of your favorites on the bad list. There may even be entries that you feel don't belong in any of our three categories. Why? Well, firstly, subverting expectations is a diabolical good time, which is perfect for the season. Secondly, it'd be boring to just list the same old stuff you can see on any Halloween candy list. And finally, taste is subjective, so I'm bound to love stuff you hate and vice versa. Starting then with our list of good Halloween candy, you know what? Let's just pull off the Band-Aid. Our first pick is, brace yourself, candy corn. Boom. That's right, nerds. Deal with it. Alright, let's get the obvious out of the way. Most Halloween candy lists are inevitably going to place candy corn squarely in the bad category. For instance, even CandyStore.com's definitive list, created by surveying 10,000 customers of their site, has candy corn in the top 3 of worst Halloween candy. How then can we possibly have the gall to ignore this outwardly unbiased polling and thumb our noses at convention by declaring candy corn as delicious as Snickers and Reese's peanut butter cups? Well, if you watched last year's festive Halloween candy video, and if you haven't, totally follow this up with it, you'll remember that we placed an incredibly high value on Halloween candy's ability to evoke the elusive spirit of Halloween. Candy corn is downright synonymous with Halloween, but more than that, its visual aesthetic is so perfect for the holiday that people who don't even like the stuff will still buy it, if only to have it around to enhance the ambiance. But John, I hear you saying, visual aesthetics do not a good candy make. Well, in response, I'd first say, why are you talking like that? But secondly, I'd suggest that perhaps candy corn is best when combined with other elements. Because, yes, it can be on the sweet side if you're pounding handfuls of the stuff, but what about using it as a decorative flair on your Halloween cupcakes in the style of the classic Intamin seasonal offering? Or as one of the additions to a Halloween party mix combining both salty and sweet elements? Or atop Rice Krispie treats? Or mixed into popcorn? What I'm saying is this. Candy corn belongs at the top of the good list, if for no other reason that it simply wouldn't be Halloween without it. And yes, this is a hill I'm willing to die on. Taking a note from Brutal Moose, a YouTuber who ranked 43 Halloween candies about 4 years ago, we're placing Fun Dip in the number 2 spot of our good list. For the record, Chef Ian Brutal Foods placed it as number 1 of the 43 entries. I was tempted to place Fun Dip on the forgotten list, if only because you just never hear people talk about it anymore. But then I remembered that Target always seems to have the deluxe box of these out in the Halloween candy section, so perhaps it's only my perception that people aren't giving this stuff out. As for our reasoning behind placing Fun Dip on the good list, well, I question your commitment to the consumption of top-tier Halloween candy if you don't think this stuff is delicious. If you ever ate a pixie stick and wish there was a way to make consuming it more fun while simultaneously getting a second kind of candy, then I have good news. To sum up with a quote from that Brutal Moose video, when they came up with Fun Dip, they basically invented a way to use sugar to eat sugar. It is great, depending on your definition of great. Now, I was trying to figure out what selection could possibly make viewers angrier than suggesting candy corn is good, and after a reflective stroll through a haunted graveyard at midnight, it came to me by placing a non-committal variety of candy in the 3rd place spot. That's right, coming in at number 3 of our good Halloween candy, we have those festive little paper bags filled with all kinds of mystery goodies. Go ahead, try to tell me I'm wrong. You can't, because you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the absolute best thing you could get in your treat bag on Halloween night, well, better than a full bar, better than candy apple, better than wax fangs, was that wonderful little mystery bag of candy. It almost didn't even matter what was inside the bag because the combined aesthetics of October 31st, paired with the element of mystery, was too much to deny. The best of these little paper bags would combine candy, toys, and money. When you tore open the stapled or taped top and dumped it out on the table, you'd find a rubber bat, plastic spider ring, 2 quarters, a mini Snickers bar, a tiny box of Nerds, and probably some loose candy corn. Or maybe you get a small Halloween dexterity puzzle, a mini Milky Way, a tiny box of Milk Duds, a small bag of Skittles, and a Wendy's coupon for a free Frosty. It was like getting a tiny trick-or-treat bag inside your trick-or-treat bag. And is there really anything better than that? No. The answer is no. We really put you through the ringer with the good list, so I'm going to give you a completely expected first entry for our bad list. Circus peanuts. Yeah, those. Going back to the candystore.com list, they have circus peanuts filling the number 1 slot of bad Halloween candy. More than that, they specify that it has maintained its position over multiple years, meaning it's essentially the undefeated champion of Halloween trash. Circus Peanuts has a multitude of negative things going for it, leading off with its weird, stale marshmallow texture. Taking a bite, you'll then have the sickening realization that it tastes like artificial banana, which I'm sure you weren't expecting from a peanut-shaped candy. Making matters worse, if you did get circus peanuts in your trick-or-treat bag, they were inevitably tossed in there loose, without any packaging, and left to mingle at the bottom of your bag with dirty loose change and other inedible surprises. So even if you were curious to try one, chances are your parents would toss them over safety concerns. Perhaps the worst offense, however, is the fact that these barely edible treats have no clear connection to Halloween except that they are sort of, kind of, barely orange.
Voiceover John sure can get long-winded sometimes. It's almost like someone is forcing him to read these words. Huh. Well, anyway, you look super familiar to me, viewer. Almost as if you've been here before, and yet you're not yet subscribed. Well, let's get that fixed. Yeah, right down there. Yeah, at the bottom of the page. Got it! Now we get to hang out again every Saturday with brand new retro topics. See you then.
Palmer's Halloween Mix is a tricky selection for the bad list. As you might recall from last year's Festive Halloween Candy episode, we made a pretty strong case that any candy, no matter how objectionable, was still exciting to get in your treat bag if it had the proper Halloween aesthetics. And clearly, Palmer's Halloween Mix is a visually appealing bag of candy wrapped in all manner of orange, black, yellow, and green foil, often with fantastic imagery like ghosts and pumpkins emblazoned on top. Additionally, the mix comes with a variety of candy, including Double Crisp, Monster Money, and Peanut Butter Pumpkin Patch. So, what's the problem? Sadly, Palmer's chocolate is of that low-quality, waxy variety. For instance, Palmer's Double Crisp's ingredient list boasts sugar, hydrogenated vegetable oil, and whey as the first 3 ingredients, with cocoa not making an appearance until the 6th ingredient. For those who are unaware, the ingredients on packaged foods are listed in descending order by weight. In this case, meaning that actual cocoa in chocolate candy weighs less than the added oil. Compare that to a Cadbury chocolate bar, which lists its first 4 ingredients as full cream milk, sugar, cocoa butter, and cocoa mass, with vegetable fats not entering the list until the 5th ingredient. Still, I can't dunk on Palmer's chocolate too hard because the truth is, for around $1.25 a bag, I nearly always buy at least one to mix into the treat bowl, if only for visual appeal. Look, there's no shortage of classic yet terrible Halloween candy. Black licorice, Good and Plenty, Necco wafers, Mary Jane's, the list goes on and on. For me, it wasn't just how bad Halloween candy tasted, it was how much of it you got in your treat bag. And by far, more than any of the other terrible Halloween candies, my bag was always littered with an overabundance of Smarties. These little cellophane-wrapped abominations were made all the worse by the sheer number of them I'd receive. Invariably, I'd untwist a roll and pop a few, only to be reminded how lackluster they truly were. bad only in the sense that they're completely forgettable in both flavor and appearance. At least candy necklaces, which are arguably the same sort of candy, had a gimmick to make them more fun. And yet they remain a top seller every Halloween. As stated on the official website, indulge your sweet tooth with a yummy Smarties candy wafer roll you know and love just the way you remember it. It's no wonder they've been one of the leading Halloween treats for over 50 years. Right, well, agree to disagree. And as a quick aside, John here going off script, I personally love Smarties, so be sure to direct your hate mail to Tony, the writer. I always thought the band Squirrel Nut Zippers had jammed random words together because it sounded funny. So imagine my surprise when I was reminded of Necco's Squirrel Nut Zippers candy, a one-time staple of Halloween that has faded into distant memory. Further, the candy was named after a Prohibition-era drink made with tequila, Grand Marnier, and cream. The original chocolate variety was invented in 1890 and called Squirrel Nut Caramels, while the vanilla-flavored Squirrel Nut Zippers came out in the mid-1920s. They are both soft, chewy caramels that contain peanuts with a packaged appearance akin to Mary Jane's. I never did get any of these in my treat bag, though I often found Mary Jane's and Bit of Honey. Perhaps it was a regional thing. This next pick isn't forgotten in the same way as Squirrel Nut Zippers, and rather is forgotten in the sense that no one ever seems to talk about them in conversations about Halloween candy. Yet, caramel squares would not only appear in treat bags, but in the industrious kitchens of our parents, who often used them to melt down for caramel apples or other Halloween treats. Their connection to the holiday, though, is indelible, and they would even come with popsicle sticks in the bag for use with your apple creations.
Autumn apples and Kraft caramels belong together. For fall is Kraft caramel apple time. Just melt buttery smooth Kraft caramels and dip. Hooray! Kraft caramel apples. You get free apple sticks, and the recipe is right on the bag. Buttery smooth Kraft caramels.
Since treat givers never seemed particularly discriminating about what they were giving out, both girls and boys would inevitably end up with candy lipstick in their bags. And you know what? I don't remember any of us complaining. In practice, they weren't all that different from the Topps Push Pop. And I'd even go out on a limb and say many of us probably didn't realize they were supposed to resemble lipstick. The chalky candy inside was a lot like Smarties, and yet had the added gimmick to make it perhaps a little more interesting to young trick-or-treaters. I only recall getting these once or twice and have never thought about them again until researching for this video. So at least for me, it remains a solid choice for our final forgotten Halloween candy.
So, how'd we do? Were your expectations sufficiently subverted? We hope so, because nothing bored us more than the thought of creating the same old list that you've read about year after year. But of course, crafting a list in this manner predictably left off some of the major players, and so, it's your turn. What candy is on your good, bad, and forgotten lists? You know I'd love to hear about it down in the comments, and if you enjoy our content, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and maybe, just maybe, activating that ubiquitous notification bell. It really does make a huge difference. Let's meet again next week to celebrate Yesteryear and Halloween, right here on RetroDaze.
Clicky clicky.